Welcome to First Friday Lunch. Just in case that cut off. So hello everyone, my name is Tina Holland. This is First Friday Lunch. Today's topic is going to be writing spaces. As you can probably tell, I am not in my normal broadcasting location or my normal writing space. I am actually in my dining room. That's my front porch behind me, and it's kind of used for storage, so I apologize for the boxes and the tins that you're seeing back there. But I do not normally write down here, and I don't normally broadcast down here. And the reason I am today is because it is extremely hot in our house. It's like going to be 90 something today, as I'm sure it's going to be a few other places in the US and other parts of the world possibly. And it is just way too hot to be on the upper level where my office is. Which brings me to writing spaces. So I only had one question from the Writers and Garden Facebook group, and I think it'll probably help cover most of what we're going to talk about today. And the question is, what do you do when you have no space or privacy? And this is an excellent question, because if during this time of pause, you are working from home, maybe your spouse is working from home, your kids have been home from school, you probably don't have a lot of space in your house or in your apartment to like get away from it. Like maybe before the pandemic, you used to go to the library, or you used to have like sit at the dining room table and write or whatever. And I think that not having space right now and being kind of cramped up with what your family is doing as well. So you have work, you're working from home, you're playing from home, you're writing from home, you're doing all these things. So that's going to affect a lot of people's writing spaces and what they have available. The other thing that will probably affect your writing space is whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert. And despite being outgoing or possibly not wanting to shy, that doesn't really define an introvert or an extrovert. I'm actually quite shy by nature, unless I get to know you, and then I'm a little more confident about speaking up. But I am an extrovert because I derive my energy from other people. So I like writing in groups. I've done a lot of online write-ins during this time of pause. And I would go to libraries during Nano. I'd go to coffee shops. I'd go to coffee shops even if I was the only writer there, because the background noise of people talking and getting their beverages and the general, what would seem like chaos to some people, actually kind of helps me establish a rhythm. Sorry about that. The other thing is too, is if you're an introvert, you don't derive energy from people. So you actually get kind of drained when you're around other people. So maybe what you need to do is you need to create space for yourself to write in. I'm going to go ahead, and I did have a definition of space. Oh, sure. And of course, now I can't find it. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Oh, back. So the definition of space is a continuous area or expanse which is free, available, or unoccupied. That kind of covers what you really need to write. Because if you're going to write in a coffee shop, you're going to need a table that's open. If you're going to write from home, you need kind of someplace to set all your stuff depending on what you're doing. I'm going to just put this definition up here so you guys can all see it. Really? Okay. There we go. So it's a continuous area or expanse which is free, available, or unoccupied. I think depending on, I was in a discussion, I'll just get off topic, not really, but I was in a discussion a few weeks ago with the Writers and Garden, well, actually it was the Noontime Knitting Craft Circle, which meets every Saturday, not this Saturday because of the holiday, but meets every Saturday. And one of the ladies had asked about renting space, like renting an office. you could do that, but I think there's better ways to find space to write to kind of get away from your family. For me, and this may not work for everyone, for me, what I need is I need a space to sit at. I have written at this dining room table. I've written in my office upstairs. I've written in coffee shops, my chair outside. We have a caravan that we work out of in the summertime. I've written from there and broadcasted from there for Zoom calls and stuff like that. So I can kind of work anywhere. And I do, if I'm going to be by myself, so there's not like this background noise and I kind of need that, I will do write-ins online. A couple of my favorites are the Courtney Project. The Dawdling Writer is another one that I participate in pretty frequently. So I will go ahead and participate in those. And a lot of times they're recorded. So even if I don't like go to the live write-in, I will go ahead and record and do it with the recording later. I do that more often with the Courtney Project than any others, just because there's a lot of discussion and talking. And so I can kind of work better under that. The other thing that I need to do is I need to do my morning pages. I almost do those either in a chair outside. I don't do it in my office space because I try and keep my office space, which is really just a guest room in our house with a desk and all my writing books and everything in it. When my sister comes to stay, as she did last month, and I did this call early, then it's used as a guest room, and then I'll usually write from the table or something. When my children were younger, I wrote from home while they were asleep or when they were doing their homework. And in that case, we all sat around the table and I would write while they did their homework. So I think it's just a little bit for me is establishing a routine. If you are having a hard time writing because you don't have a routine, I think you need to look and see, okay, do you need to establish a routine to write? Like how does that space need to look? And how do you view writing? Are you trying to get a project out or are you just trying to get on the page? And maybe if you're struggling and you're just trying to get on the page, what you should do is create some rituals around it. I always have to have a cup of coffee. This is from Rachel Wilder. She got me coffees because I have a different coffee mug for every day of the week. And this is Fridays. And so she got me a Friday one. And today I have iced coffee. So I will get up in the morning. I will have breakfast. I will have a coffee, and then I will go ahead and start kind of my day. And it's changed a little bit in the summertime because sometimes I work. I usually try and do 30 minutes of writing or 30 minutes of work right before I'm going to write. So I'll do my morning pages. I'll play a couple games on my tablet. Then I'll do like 30 minutes of business. That's checking my Facebook account, checking my LinkedIn account, kind of catching up with my readers and other work things that I have, like projects I have for Writers and Garden. And I spend 30 minutes doing that just so that I don't have to do it during the time I write. And usually if I will participate in either the Dawdling Writer write-in, and I'll put these links down below when I'm done. If I participate in that one, or I'm going to do Courtney, I'm usually writing for a good 2 to 4 hours. That's what I try and do. I usually write, and then I'll have lunch, and then I'll come back, do 30 minutes of work, write again. And then right before I go to bed, I'll do another 30 minutes of work just so I've got the work projects done. So that's kind of my routine. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section below, or the chat, I guess that's what it's called, and they will pop up for me so I can see them. So I guess that's kind of all I have. I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about today just because we don't have a lot of viewers, which totally does not surprise me because it is the July 4th holiday weekend, and I'm sure people are spending times with their families and friends and maybe traveling today, going somewhere. We are not, obviously, because in the time of great pause, I'm like one of the youngest attendees in one of our family functions. So yeah, we're not doing anything this year. My husband and I think we'll grill and we'll watch Independence Day, just because that's what we normally do during this time, is we always watch Independence Day with Will Smith, the first one, not the second one. I didn't care for the second one as much. So we'll do that. And then we usually watch Jaws too. So those are kind of our movies to watch. And yeah, it's just going to be kind of a quiet weekend. So I see two people had joined us for a little bit. Now one person's on. So I think, let me see what else I have. We talked a little bit about routines. And so I think establishing space, and I don't think a space has to be very big. It depends on what all you need. If you write out by hand, like when I'm doing journaling and stuff, a small table's nice, but I usually just rest it on my lap or whatever. This is my new journal. Exciting. I usually just rest that on my lap. So it totally depends on what I'm writing. When I'm doing business stuff, I tend to like being in my office when I'm checking like Facebook or some of these other things that I've got going on. I tend to work more in my office. When it's hot, like it is today, I'll work from the dining room table. I'm pretty fortunate. My husband is usually gone in the summertime. Both of my kids have moved away. They're adults now. And so I kind of have the house to myself in the sense that if I needed quiet, I have that. But I usually create my own noise just because, like I said, I derive energy from other people. So it's beneficial to me to go ahead and have that background noise. If that doesn't work for you, then I think what you need to do is you need to carve out a little space, wherever that is, and write. And maybe if you're really struggling to write fiction, poetry, whatever your main projects are, whatever those are, if you're struggling to write that, I would totally grab a journal and just like freestyle it. Just go somewhere and sit, relax, get your favorite beverage, hot, cold, and sit in a relaxing chair and just kind of let the words flow, let them come out. Because I think it's more about getting on the page, because if you're stressed and you can't get on the page with whatever projects you're trying to work on, whether it's poems or flash fiction or novels or short stories or not, maybe nonfiction, maybe you're an essay writer. If you're struggling with that, there's something in your brain that probably needs to get out in another form. And so I think you need to look at other creative outlets besides writing. And then once you can kind of get back on the page, perhaps whatever works for you in that, you can bring over to working on projects. Like for me, the room that we have upstairs, which was one of our daughter's rooms when they lived at home, is now, like I said, it's a guest room. And usually my sister will stay there when she comes to visit, or it's my office. But I've got everything in that space set up the way I like it. I'll put some pictures. We're going to continue this discussion over at Writers and Garden. So I'll put some pictures of my writing spaces over at Writers and Garden, and I'd encourage you to do the same. And we can see the spaces in which people write with, and we can talk about what people are struggling with, because I think right now during this time, maybe your writing space has become your workspace too. So you're having a hard time writing in that space, because that's a creative process. And if you're spending your Monday through Friday job there because that's your desk, then maybe it's a hard thing for you to go ahead and be creative in that space. So then how do you become creative if you have a small apartment, or if you're working and writing in the same space? So I think we need to look at stuff like that. Like, is it creating a routine so that your brain is setting up to write fiction, or is it simply moving the writing space from your desk to the dining room table or the sofa or the bedroom or wherever that creative space is going to be? And then once you have space, then it's going to be about setting up time. What time of day works best? Are you writing once a week? Are you writing every day? We're right in the middle of Camp Nano, so I think a lot of people feel a tremendous amount of pressure to write every day. And I would argue maybe not. If you're just trying to find, I don't think I'd work on projects every day, but I do believe in journaling every day. I believe that getting junk out of your head, either in the form of journaling or doodling or drawing or making lists or whatever works for you that way. I think that's important in this time, just to go ahead and clear your brain out. So I think that finding something creative to do every day is probably more significant than writing every day, because I think, just as we've talked about these last few months, and everything has been revolving around self-care blocks, today's writing spaces. I've already picked the project for next month. And I think it's just, and it goes around this same theme of trying to find time and space and energy to write. And how do we do that? So I'm going to leave it at that. But like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them down below. I don't see that anybody does, and that is totally fine. And it looks like we may have lost our last viewer, which is also fine. So next month, so the next First Friday live event is going to be August 7th. The topic is going to be writing process. So I'll talk about my writing process and how that works for me. And we can talk about your writing process. But let's go ahead and just continue this discussion over at Writer's Zen Garden. And there's the link, and I will also put it in the comments below so that you guys have access to it. And pencil me in next month, August 7th, for First Friday lunch. I'll see you then.